So once you realize that this is your path, this is what you're here to do, and you've had this kind of realization that my own physical body, my own identity isn't the most important thing that we need to attach to, then where do you go from there? What's the progress? How do you progress once your perception of your own being has been altered? Guruji goes on to say, Gyan Khand ka akho karam. So Guruji says that the next state is Gyan Khand, a state of being awakened, the awakened or the realization state. Gyan Khand ka akho karam. Of the awakened state, now I narrate the way. I narrate the qualities, the karam. I narrate the ways of the awakening state. So what we do with our whole life, what the ordinary person does, is we concentrate on our life story. Our whole focus is on our own pursuits, our own challenges in life, and our own successes and failures in life, our achievements. And when this individual awareness has been broken, then Guruji now talks about our minds becoming expansive. So what we're talking about is to progress from this individual reality, this individual perspective that we live with, and to see that we've been missing something all along, that there's a greater story, to understand that there's a bigger picture being told here. And Guruji has mentioned that right early on when he talked about Sabna Likhya Vudi Kalam, that there is this one great pen that is writing the ultimate story, but you're so concentrated on just your own character that you miss the entire play. So when we understand that our perception has been holding us back, when the perception of your own self has been changed, then you get elevated to beyond this body-mind identity. You don't just identify with your body and your mind, you now look towards creation. You can now see more than what you could see before. So you don't recognize yourself as the center of the universe. You live in a state of awe, in a state of wonderment. It's as though your eyes have been opened for the first time. And this is where your individual concerns and your individual suffering now begin to dissolve, because now you're able to see that you've been so focused on yourself that that focus on yourself is what made you suffer. When the focusing on the self becomes less, then your suffering also becomes less. So you're now world-focused or universe-focused. So we can talk about this being the difference between individual consciousness and universal consciousness. A really interesting thing to note is that when we look at the Vedas, the Hindu scriptures, generally the content within the Vedas has been broken into 3 different categories. And those categories are also known as khands. The first category is known as Karam Khand. So you can look at the Vedas and there will be instructions about the way to live your life, the right deeds, the spiritual or the pious actions to do in life, the right practices, the holy way of living. And another type of content within the Vedas is called Upasana Khand, which is the types of meditations or the ways of worship. So one is the ways of living in terms of the right actions to do. The other is the ways of worshipping or the ways of meditating, and that's called Upasana Khand. And the third type of content that you see in the Vedas is called Gyan Khand, and that is the wisdom that is within the Vedas of what is ultimate reality. So where the Vedas, and particularly the Upanishads, they are talking about the super being, the supreme being, the oneness which is called Brahm, that ultimate oneness. And this Gyan Khand also includes what we would call the sciences, so cosmology and study of the stars and all that. So it's very interesting to know that very similar words have been used to describe the contents of the Vedas, which is Karam Khand, Upasana Khand and Gyan Khand. And Guruji here is talking about Gyan Khand as being the second step. So Guru mentions Gyan Khand ka akho karam. Now I shall narrate the characteristics of the second stage, which is Gyan Khand. Guruji goes on to say, Kete pavan pani ve santar, kete kaan mahes. Kete, we've seen this word before, means how many or so many. Pavan pani ve santar, so winds, waters and fires. All of these words don't have an onkar, so these are the plural versions of this word. So many winds, waters and fires. Kete kaan mahes. So many Krishnas, Kaan and Mahes, Shivas. So many Krishnas and Shivas. So in the last verse, Guruji already mentioned that the earth was made up of wind, water and fire. So Guruji talks about Pavan Pani Agni Patal, this which Tarti Thap Rakhi Tarmsal. So this stage is now less about knowledge about how the earth is made and sort of the elements of the world, and more about an awareness of their existence, an awareness of how much they infiltrate all of life. And this is now the beginning of what we're talking about, which is elevating yourself just from knowledge within the mind and an understanding, which is what Dharam Khand was about, was an understanding of where life should be for you individually. And now this is an awareness, which is that you're just in awe of their existence. So when Guruji talks in this way, we can see that Guruji is going back to some similar styles that he's used in earlier verses, where he's just singing in praise of everything. He's in awe of it. He's in wonderment. So Guruji says, how many winds, how many waters, how many fires. And we think about this, that how many beings on earth rely on the air? How many beings breathe in air, have air within their lungs or within their being? We're talking about the trillions. So how many trillions of beings have breath of air within them? And how many beings exist in air? How many airborne beings are there? How many birds? How many insects? We even see in the wonder of nature flying fish, where fish will come out of the water and they will glide in the air for long periods of time before going back in. So how many amazing creatures are there that are in the air? And then how many waters, how many bodies of water are there? How many rivers, how many lakes, how many streams, how many oceans? They say that within the human body itself, the cells are made up of 90% of water. So we ourselves are covered with water, filled with water. And every single being like that is so reliant on water itself. If we talk about so many trillions of beings in the air, then in the oceans and in the rivers and in the seas, how many insects, how many small fish and other plant life and animal life exists in these waters. So this is really just a continuous amazement about air and an amazement of water and all the things that interact with it. Now, all the beings on earth rely on either air or water to survive, and what the air and the water does is it keeps their fire of life alive. If we take life as being a fire that's burning inside you, then you rely on either air or water to keep that fire alive. So Guruji is now saying, Kete Vesantar, how much fire is there in burning inside all of us. And even if we look at the sun, it is made of fire. If we look at all the stars that you see in the night sky, they are all balls of fire. And even science now knows that at the core of every rock planet is essentially a ball of fire. So we live on a ball of fire, molten rock, and we survive because of a ball of fire, the sun. And even when the sun is not here, that ball of fire reflects in the moon, and all the stars that we can see at night are also fire. So fire is everywhere as well. Kete Vesantar. And Guruji talks about how many Krishnas and how many Shivas there are. And so if anyone was under some sort of delusion that we only worship one deity, that there is only ever one Krishna or ever one Shiva, well, Guru is saying that there is so many. If Shiva means the destroyer, then there is so much destruction happening. Everyone and everything has the ability to destroy something else. So everyone has the power of Shiva within them, that destruction ability. So when Guruji is looking around, he says, there isn't one Shiva that I can see billions and trillions of Shivas all around me. We can also take the same lines where Guruji can talk about meditators. Kete pavan pani vesantar. How many sages are living off breath alone? How many sages are reliant on meditation on breath? How many are meditating on the banks of holy rivers? How many are going to sacred pools and bathing in the waters? How many are taking the ashes of fire and smearing their body with it? So even within meditation, there's a reliance on either wind, water, or fire. How many people are meditating on Krishnas and Shivas? So by the time you're getting to the Gyan stage, when you're reading Japji Sahib, you should already be in that state of wonderment. And a really interesting way to read Japji Sahib, and an interesting way to make Japji Sahib more of a meditation and less of just a recitation, is if you read every single word in Japji Sahib and every line as a state of wonderment. So if rather than reading Ik Oankar as there is this oneness, read Ik Oankar as almost as though you're saying, wow, there is this oneness. Wow, it has existence as its name. And you can read all of Japji Sahib in that way, and it makes the whole process a very, very enlightening, very spiritual and very connecting process where you're connecting with it. Try that if you read Japji Sahib next time, where every line is a statement of wow. What you will realize is then you're not using Japji Sahib as just a knowledge feed, you're using it as your meditation. So Japji Sahib and Gurbani becomes your Naam Simran, rather than telling you about Naam Simran that you then have to go and do somewhere else or at some other time. So to live in praise is Guru Nanak's message. This is the fundamental difference to Guru Nanak's approach towards spiritual development than to any other approach so far. If we can say that some of the Islamic techniques is about submission to the will of God, within Islam the whole idea is submission, that we have to submit to the will of God, which means we have to follow the rules properly. And if you look at Hindu mythology and Hindu scripture, their whole focus is on liberation. How do you liberate yourself from reincarnation? But Gurbani doesn't take any of those two to be the most important way that man can actually survive within this Kaljug age. Gurbani says that actually don't focus on your liberation and don't just blindly surrender to the will of God and to the rules. Actually make it a surrender and include a praise. And this is why we can see that within Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the whole focus is praise rather than moksha. In fact, Gurbani goes as far as saying, Mukt na chahu. I'm not even interested in my mukti. My mukti becomes a statement of ego. I'm not interested. Raj na chahu, mukt na chahu. I don't want any great glory, and I don't even want liberation. I just want to fall at your feet. So it's ultimate submission Guru is showing, and which is why we can see that the whole of Gurbani is written to music. Because music is the meditation. Singing, the praise, is the meditation of Guru Nanak. And we even say that Guru Nanak Dev Ji came in the age of Kaljug and he brought Kirtan Kaljug Partanna. So this is the most effective method in this dark age where we're so lost within our mind. Praise and singing is the method. And this is what Guru calls real wisdom. This is what Guru calls Gyan. Gyan isn't knowledge. Gyan isn't textbook wisdom. It is being in this awakened state of awe and enlightenment. That is Gyan Khand. And this is Guru Nanak's Dharam. This is the religion of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, which is the most effective way for mankind to live, is to live in praise, in awe of and in wonderment of the divine.